All right, so today, something different to talk about. So, airbrushes, that is going to be the topic, or specifically, one airbrush. Now, on my build videos here, I have, especially earlier on in filming my episodes, I talked about airbrushes. Do you need them? Are they really necessary? And I would still stand by the opinion that they are not necessarily required. You can get by perfectly fine with bottle paints and rattle cans, and you can still come up with some very nice builds. The majority of things you've seen me do on the channel is from that exact approach. However, there are some things where an airbrush, like any other tool, some tools, there are certain situations where they are the best tool for the job, and there really is not a better substitute. And for some things, this is the story with the airbrush. Now, what I'm going to show you today is one solution used by one person, which would be me, with one type of paint, which will be Tamiya acrylic. So the reason I am going through this, I am not meaning this to be a strict definition of how to do your airbrushing. This is meant more as if you are curious about airbrushing, you don't know how to get into using an airbrush or what it may involve. I am doing this video because I realized this was a very simple way to get in. It's a very simple and cost-effective solution, and I've had good results using it. So I figured, you know what, maybe other people can learn something like I learned something, so I'm gonna pass it forward. Very first thing, credit where credit is due. I heard about this system on HPI Guys, so I mention that because I do firmly believe in the idea of knowledge sharing and learning from each other. My whole point of doing my videos was to share what I know, whatever you want to classify that as, but to share that with people who are new to the hobby or coming back to the hobby, to try to make life a little bit easier and answer some questions and show you a few ways to do things, how you can do things without getting into big crazy complications, so on and so forth. And that is exactly to the point of this system. So second thing I should mention is this is not a commercial. I did not receive this from Works. I bought this out of my own pocket change. This is just me talking about my experience with this particular airbrush system. It is not a strict endorsement. So there's my disclaimer. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is the Works 20 volt cordless airbrush system. Cordless we'll put in parentheses, and I'll show you why. So these are the components of the system. We have our airbrush. This is the compressor itself. Nice and tidy, easy to hold in your hand. Obviously the airbrush atop. And I say cordless with quotes because air quotes because you do have a cord. This cord plugs into the brush. Your control plugs to your battery, and you have your on off for the airbrush. The min max has no effect. It does for the rotary tool. I will talk about that in a moment briefly. And then we have a charger to charge your battery. So I bought a Works Maker X combo pack, which airbrush, one battery, the rotary tool, these bits, the charger, and the controller, and of course the airbrush. And I think this whole package ran me, at the time I bought it, which is 2 years ago, as of the filming of this video, for a grand total, I think, of about $100, $120, something like that. In any event, or however you want to look at it, a big, huge bargain. And if you have ever looked at airbrushes, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, if you buy a conventional airbrush setup with a separate compressor and a separate airbrush, you could easily be spending hundreds of dollars on each of those items and have a very, very expensive rig, a very capable and very exacting rig, but perhaps massive overkill for what you're wanting to do, and certainly a very expensive gamble on whether you're actually going to enjoy using it and finding it really applicable to what you want to do. Now, one thing I do want to note as well, although the airbrush, of course, is mated to this nice little compact compressor, you do not have PSI adjustment. This is one of the compromises with this. The expensive dedicated compressors, you can adjust your PSI, and when you watch like real experts with airbrushes, they will specify a PSI, a specific mix ratio, different sized needles in the brush itself. Go for it. Complications. I like things simple, and a lot of times simplicity, practicality, they run in the same neighborhood. This lives in that neighborhood. But yet, this is flexible. This is a standard airbrush, so you can, if you so choose, take this apart and put different airbrush needles in there. The needle controls the width of the spray, I believe. If you really want to do something exacting, again, go for it. I have always used the same needle that came with this, and it's worked out just fine. So I'm just going to divert for a moment and talk about the rotary tool. When I bought this package, the rotary tool was included. This also plugs in the rear to the same power setup, but with the rotary tool, this is your speed control. So if you're familiar with like a Dremel rotary tool, same idea. It's just, as you can tell, this is a nice, handy, and you can really almost use this if you're engraving things. Hold it like a pen because of the way it is shaped. This is a good grip surface here, so you can get a good hold on this thing, and it is not very heavy at all. I have used this on the Ryefield Panther, and I did do some trim work on some of the pieces towards the back of the tank, and this worked out just great. And they give you a whole box of bits, so that is pretty cool. A lot of these I have not used yet. I used the cutting wheel. Always got to have that to give you a bunch of sanding and buffing attachments, and then some assorted bits and whatnot. But a nice assortment of stuff. Again, killer bargain for the price. So I'm going to set this aside because, like I said, I really want to be talking about the airbrush. So, charger I'll put away because I'm not going to charge. So when you want to use this guy, we hook that up, turn it on, and you are ready to go. This does rotate, so depending how you want to do your comfort in holding it with the cord, I just have it going this way right now because of the way I'm holding it, which is a little bit awkward for the camera. And you have your double action lever, which is to start spraying, and then you can control the needle how far out you want for how wide a spray you want. And when you're done, power off. There we go. So that's that part of things. Now, how do I use this? Well, I only work with my Tamiya acrylics with this. Why is that? One, the Tamiya acrylics, these are reliably filtered, let's say, so the paint will flow well. Plus, you can also buy Tamiya thinner for acrylic paint. The biggie with this is no toxic fumes. So here in my basement at my hobby table, I can do my airbrushing right here. I don't have to have a vent hood, tubing to a window to get odors out or anything like that. No toxic chemicals. Very simple and safe. I like that. You can run enamels, lacquers, whatever through here, but of course then you will have some type of mineral spirit or derivative thereof as a cleanup. Now you have fumes. You cannot work indoors unless you are working in a vent box, because it simply is hazardous to your health. But with this, I don't have to worry about that. I have also found, experimenting back and forth, a simple 1-to-1 dilution. 1 part paint, 1 part thinner. I put it right in the basket of the airbrush, mix it up with a disposable plastic pipetter, or dropper, whatever you want to call it, and boom, I am ready to go. So simple, simple, simple. I like it so much, I said simple 3 times. When I am done with my spraying, this comes apart quite easily. We can take off the end spray there. We can clean that. We take this off. We clean that. And the basket itself comes off, and we can clean that. Now, when I do my cleaning, when I'm done spraying, I take a pipette's worth of thinner. I put it right in the basket, spray the whole thing out, the whole content out. Then I take the brush apart. I use some cotton swabs, take these pieces off, wipe them down and clean them. Wipe this down, clean that. Very carefully rub the swab off the needle. You can see it going in and out there. Want to be careful not to damage that. And then I rub in there to get that cleaned. Reassemble. And then I run another pipetter's worth of thinner, acrylic thinner through there. And my brush, my airbrush, is spotless clean. One, taking care of your tools. Cleanliness is always important. 2, because I do not airbrush all the time. Sometimes I set this aside and it could be months before I use it again. With that cleaning regimen, I take this out, I'm ready to go. I have no problems. So, effective cleaning. And again, it's simple. I have, after going through it a couple of times, I have gotten the prep in terms of mixing the paint. That's simple. Measure, and it goes. Just pull it up and down in the pipette a few times. It's all set. I do my spraying, and then when I'm done, my cleanup, exactly as I described, takes me about 10-15 minutes, and it's finished, ready to go. Before I spray, I always keep this scrap piece of plastic, as you can tell, and I just do a test spray. The initial spray that comes out after I prep my paint mix always has a little bit more of the thinner in it, so I want to blow that out, and I want to make sure I'm getting a nice clean delivery, and then I go right into my actual painting itself. Now, if you've never painted with an airbrush, painting with an airbrush, no different than painting with a rattle can. You never want to linger. You want to always keep moving as you go through. If you linger, the paint will start to goob up, and then you'll get a sloppy job. And remember, any approach to painting, brush, airbrush, rattle can, doesn't matter. Multiple thin coats are much better than one thick coat. They will cover better. You'll get a smoother finish. You won't get runs. You won't get drips. You won't get mess. Always better off to be patient and do a few coats. I do cover my work area with some disposable shop towels that I get at Home Depot, Costco, whatever. Super cheap. When they get all junky and dirty, I just chuck them, take out new ones, no problem. And do my spraying, and there we go. So I have had a very satisfying results with this, and I used this on the Panther, the Riffield Panther G. I used it on the Mang Mark V British Heavy Tank. I used it entirely for the Mini Art, the aforementioned Mini Art G506 build, and I've used it in a few other spot places. I used it on the engine of my AMT Auto Car dump truck, but and it's the last point I want to make. You have a tool like this, it's at your disposal. So when you're ready to go with it. And one other thing I want to say with these Tamiya acrylics, which I didn't fully appreciate till doing the Mini Art G506, you won't have to worry about color matching between your spray paint effectively and your brush paint, because you're using the same paint, the same source paint. If you use a rattle can, and I've noticed this over the years with testers, even if you buy a gloss red tester spray and a gloss red bottle, they don't quite match. So using this and sticking with the acrylics, you're always going to have a color match. And as I found when I did the Mini Art truck, it matches really well. So something to consider. These bottles are not very expensive. I paid $8.99 at one of my local hobby shops there, Willis Hobbies, to get this good old jug. And I have bought one of these, and I am only halfway through. So you get a lot of painting out of that. As usual, thank you for watching, and please do subscribe, like, hit the alert button, all that nifty YouTube stuff, and I will see you with another build. Alrighty.